Today, we have an exclusive interview with 2K26's lead narrative designer, Sean Conaway, talking all about MyRISE. The first thing Conaway announces is that this year is known as the comeback. Instead of two separate stories for men and women of years past, or a combined story last year, this time around you'll be a wrestler returning to the WWE after hiatus, like CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, Chelsea Green, Drew McIntyre, any of those, but you're known as the archetype. But your return is soon halted by Paul Heyman and either Braun Breaker or Jordynne Grace, depending if you're a male or female wrestler. The article says that anyone who's been up to date with WWE will understand why Breaker is taking up the big bad guy role, but the top babyface, Jordynne Grace, was a surprise. When asked about this, Conaway explained that, quote, "We work so far ahead from WWE that we kind of look into our crystal balls and try to forecast as best as we can who we think is going to be hot a year from now. And for example, we paired up Braun with Heyman before WWE did that, which is really cool, and it's exciting to see that that's like a very logical step. I'm glad that Braun Breaker, because he has the main event potential, but he needs an extra little piece for him, and Paul Heyman is that little extra piece. So I love the pairing, and I'm glad that something like that was just predictable, and predictable doesn't mean bad, it just means that that's kind of the right direction to go in, and so I'm glad to hear that they did something like this. The rest of the article says that he explained that the team, quote, sees huge things for Jordynne Grace. While she may not be a top villain right now, she's one to watch, which was helped by working with Grace, who did mocap for 2K25, being a, quote, embarrassment of riches. Now, before we get into the rest of this article, make sure you leave a like on the video, and if you like wrestling content like this, subscribe to the channel for more. It says the return to split men's and women's storylines was a welcome one, but both taking on the role of the archetype raised an alarm for me. Would these be simple rehashes where you fight Grace instead of Breaker, or is it simply a base to go off of? Conaway explained, quote, "We're telling one similar story between the two divisions with different antagonists and different rivals, but there are substantial differences along the way with different cutscenes, different dialogue, and different moments along the way." I really like the idea of having a returning superstar be the main focus. Call him the archetype, that's cool. I am glad though that's not just the same story for male and for female. I'm glad that it gives you the replayability. It gives you the, well, I just played with the male, I want to play as a female to see what all that story is about. I want to see why Jordynne Grace is here. I want to see what different cutscenes, different dialogue options we're going to have. So it's nice to not have the same stories repeated twice. It says, after last year, it took the game from 2 campaigns to 1. I was curious if that was the case of cutting things back for the introduction of like the island mode. And then Conaway said, I think it's a factor. We're always considering scope and resources. But even with that in play, we want to make sure we're going for quality over quantity, always. And given that WWE 2K25 Mutiny was one of the best MyRISE modes to date, perhaps it was a blessing. Mutiny was very fun, and so I'm already into this with the whole archetype system, the whole archetype, character. So going back from just taking away all the excess stuff, just making sure it's like one cohesive story. You don't need all this extra stuff. I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm very excited to see where this goes. Now, speaking about unlockables, it says that last year's MyRISE mode forced you to play the storyline multiple times to unlock everything, which was another bit of criticism. It says that I did see some fatigue comments about, oh, I have to play this 5 times to get this reward, so it definitely won't be to that extent this year. Conaway also shared that with MyRISE this year, you'll be able to unlock the likes of Polka Dot Dusty Rhodes and the 03 independent scene version of cover star CM Punk, and yes, they went for his classic entrance theme for this character, which is super awesome to see. Aside from the unlocks, my biggest problem with MyRISE in recent years has been the ending, as in it just ends. Previous career modes in wrestling games were likely to take your character through the calendar year and get into fuse and chase titles, and even if these weren't the same quality as original storyline, getting to do nothing with your character was always a bummer to me. So I was happy with my inquiry when it was met with "it's definitely back." Conaway explaining that we put a lot of work into that. He explains that the end of your story will feature a major final decision that will set up for some sort of new game plus material. You'll be able to defend championships, lose them, and set up a second comeback to get back on top again. Conaway also teased Easter eggs in the form of hidden opponents you can randomly encounter in the New Game Plus championship loop as well. While the announcement of a shared storyline had me somewhat worried, I'm optimistic about 2K26's addition of career mode. If anything, the lack of over-the-top unlock requirements and finally let me stay with my character gives it a huge edge over the previous entries. And one last confirmation, Baron Blade will return in 2K26. So there you have it, that's all the news about this year's MyRISE. I'm very excited for it. The actual story just connects with me on something that's what made me really interested in playing it multiple times over. And I like that there's going to be like a New Game Plus content where you're not just ending it, you're not just over. There's more wrestling to have in the game. But let me know in the comment section below, what are you most excited for with the new MyRISE? What are you least excited for? And what are you hoping to get out of it? And before you go, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel for more wrestling content like this.